The desert doesn't forgive. By noon, the rocks burn, the air ripples, and even the buzzards wait for something to die. Somewhere out there, a little boy is running, barefoot, breathless, calling for his mama. And on a lonely stretch of stone under the blazing sun, a woman lies bound and fading fast. No one rides this road unless they have a reason, but today someone is coming. Will he reach her in time? Let's find out.
Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We've got more powerful stories coming every single day, and you don't want to miss them. Now, let's begin.
The sun burned high over the desert like a molten coin. Heat shimmered across the sand, turning the world into a wavering mirage. Sam stumbled over a patch of dry brush, his small boots kicking up dust. Every breath cut his throat, every blink stung with grit. He didn't stop calling. "Mama! Mama, can you hear me?" A faint sound answered, not a word, just a dry whisper carried by the wind. Sam followed it, heart hammering, until he saw her. His mother lay tied against a flat boulder, wrists bound tight with rough rope, her face pale beneath the scorch of the sun. A piece of her skirt was caught under the stone, pinning her like the desert itself wanted to keep her. "Mama!" He ran to her, tugging at the knots with shaking fingers. The rope scraped his skin, but it wouldn't give. Tears mixed with sweat on his cheeks. "Sam." Her voice was barely there. Don't cry, baby." "I'm going to get you loose," he promised, even though he didn't know how. He pulled until his hands bled, until the world tilted from heat and fear. The buzz of cicadas was the only sound, cruel and constant. Then, in the distance, something moved. A dark speck against the blinding sky, slow and steady. A rider. Sam shaded his eyes, hope sparking through the haze. "If I don't find help soon," he whispered, voice trembling, "the sun will take her." He turned toward the distant figure and began to run. Let's find out who's coming. Sam ran until his legs quivered like reeds in the wind. The ground shimmered ahead, the air thick with heat and dust. Behind him, the shape of his mother tied to the rock blurred, swallowed by the desert light. He couldn't stop. Not now. The trail wound between low ridges and dead mesquite trees. In the sand, he saw boot prints, deep, angry marks, and the round scars of horseshoes pressed into the earth. The men who took his mother had gone this way. He followed the prints, hoping they might lead him to help before they led him to more danger. His mouth was so dry he could taste the dust. He stumbled, fell to his knees, and pushed himself up again. "Please, please," he whispered. "Somebody, please." A low rumble reached his ears, faint but real. Hoofbeats. Sam turned, eyes squinting into the sunlight. Up on the ridge, a dark horse moved like a shadow against the white sky. Its rider sat tall and still, the brim of his hat pulled low. Sam cupped his hands around his mouth, voice cracking as he shouted, "Help! Please, mister! My mama's dying!" The rider slowed, turning his head toward the sound. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, the horse began to descend the ridge, kicking up a soft trail of dust as it came closer. Sam's heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. Was this a savior, or one of the men who left his mother to die? The rider's horse came down the slope, slow and steady. dust curling around its hooves like smoke. Sam stood frozen, one hand shielding his eyes, unsure whether to run or wait. When the man drew near, Sam saw the shine of a tin water flask, the swing of a rope at his saddle, and the shadow of a face carved hard by the sun. The horse snorted, stopping a few feet away. The rider lifted his hat, revealing eyes the color of worn leather, steady, watchful, not cruel. "You alone out here, boy?" His voice was calm, but carried the kind of weight that made Sam's chest tighten. Sam nodded, trying to speak but only coughing. The rider swung down from his saddle, boots crunching on the sand. He handed the boy the flask. "Easy now. Sip slow." Sam drank, water cool as mercy. "My mama," he gasped. "She's tied up, back there by the big rock. Please, sir, you gotta help her." The man's expression sharpened. "Tied up?" "Yes, sir. By 2 men. They took her things, left her to die." For a second the desert was silent except for the horse's breathing. Then the man nodded once. "Show me." Sam turned, running ahead through the heat. The rider followed, hat pulled low again, his hand brushing the hilt of his knife, not for threat, but readiness. When he looked toward the distant rock, his jaw tightened. He'd seen cruelty before, but not like this. He spurred his horse forward. When they reached the rise, the wind shifted, carrying the sharp scent of dust and sweat. Eli Boon saw her first, a woman slumped against a sun-bleached boulder, skin blistered beneath the noon glare. Her wrists were lashed cruelly with rope, her head bowed as though the heat had bent her spirit too. Sam ran ahead, calling, "Mama, I brought someone. He's gonna help." Eli dismounted before the horse stopped moving, boots sinking into hot sand. Up close, the sight of the woman hollowed him out, the cracked lips, the dry tremor of breath. He'd seen men tie up cattle cleaner than this. "Ma'am," he said softly, kneeling beside her, "name's Eli Boon. You hold on now." Her eyelids fluttered. "Sam," she whispered, "my boy found you." "He sure did," Eli said, checking the knots. The ropes were tight, rough hemp, twisted to cut skin. Whoever tied them wanted her to hurt slow. He reached for his knife, a bone-handled blade worn smooth from years of use, and slid the edge under the cords. Sam crouched beside him, hands trembling. "Can you get her loose?" "I can," Eli murmured. "Just need a minute." He worked carefully, sawing through one rope at a time, making sure not to cut her. When the last strand snapped, her arms fell free, red welts circling her wrists. Eli caught her before she slumped sideways. "Easy now," he said. "We got you." The desert wind sighed as though it too had been holding its breath. Eli eased Sam's mother down onto the shaded side of the boulder, where a scraggly mesquite tree fought the heat. Her breathing came in ragged gasps, and the color had drained from her face. He uncorked his canteen and poured a thin stream of water across her cracked lips. She flinched at first, then drank, trembling. "There you go," Eli said quietly. "Slow and steady." Sam hovered close, clutching her hand. "Mama, it's okay now. He's helping you." Her eyes blinked open, faded blue, full of gratitude and pain. "You're kind," she whispered to Eli. "Didn't think anyone would come." He gave a half smile. "No one gets left for the sun while I'm riding." He wet a piece of cloth from his saddlebag and laid it across her forehead. Then he checked her wrists, rope burns, deep and raw. "You'll need rest, ma'am," he murmured, wrapping them gently, "and shade." Eli looked around. Nothing but endless desert, the horizon trembling. "We'll get you to town soon as you can ride," he said, glancing at Sam. "You done good, boy. Real good." Sam's eyes brightened just a little. "Will she be all right?" Eli paused, tightening the bandage. "She's tough," he said. "Tougher than most men I know." A faint smile touched her lips before her eyes closed again. Eli stood, scanning the distance where the footprints led. His jaw hardened. "Men who do this don't deserve the dust they walk on," he muttered. "Let's find out what he does next." The heat had softened by the time Eli finished tending her wounds. The sun hung lower, glowing red over the dunes. Sam sat beside his mother, holding her hand, whispering to keep her awake. Eli rinsed his knife in the sand and glanced toward the trail. 2 sets of boot prints, deep and sharp. "They weren't just passing through," he said quietly. "They meant her to die out here." Sam looked up, his voice small. "They came this morning, took our food, said Mama shouldn't have talked back. Then they laughed." His face twisted with shame. "I hid. I should have done something." Eli crouched in front of him. "You did do something. You went for help. That's the only reason she's breathing now." He rose and studied the horizon again. Something about those prints tugged at his memory. 2 men. One walks heavy on the left, the other drags his heel. His jaw tightened. "I've seen that pair before." "Who are they?" Sam asked. Eli's eyes darkened. "Dalton's lot. Outlaws. Been trailing 'em near 2 weeks. Guess I finally caught their shadow." A gust of wind swept through, scattering sand over the rock where she'd been tied. Eli set his hat back on, the brim low. "We'll get her to Dry Gulch. Sheriff Gentry'll want their names. After that," he paused, voice hardening, "I aim to make sure they don't hurt anyone else." He saddled his horse, the leather creaking. The sun sagged toward the horizon, painting the desert gold and blood red. Eli lifted Sam's mother onto his horse with careful strength, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. She was weak, half-conscious, but alive. Sam walked beside them, his small hand gripping the stirrup as if afraid she'd drift away. Eli's partner, Wes, met them halfway down the ridge, a tall man with a gray hat and eyes tired from miles of dust. "Heard you whistle," he said. "Trouble?" Eli nodded. "Dalton's men, 2 of 'em. Left her for dead." Wes spat in the sand. "Figures." He looked at the woman and softened. "Poor soul. We'll get her safe." They rode slow, the desert stretching wide and endless. The horses' hooves beat a steady rhythm against the hard-packed trail. Every few minutes Eli checked her pulse, offered her water, and spoke quiet words meant more for Sam's sake than hers. "Dry Gulch ain't far," he said. "Couple hours yet. Town's got a doctor. You just keep walking, boy." Sam nodded, too tired to speak. The sky deepened to violet. Coyotes yipped in the distance. At the crest of the next rise, lights flickered, lanterns from the town, faint but real. Relief washed over Sam, and he stumbled with it. Eli reached down, caught his shoulder, steadying him. "There now," Eli said, voice gentle. "Almost home." For the first time that day, Sam let himself believe they might make it. By the time they reached Dry Gulch, night had fallen over the desert like a blanket of ash. The lanterns along Main Street flickered in the wind, casting long, crooked shadows across the wooden walkways. Dogs barked from behind fences, and the low hum of the saloon piano spilled into the street, off-key and lonesome. Eli rode at the front. Sam's mother slumped against him, her head resting weakly on his arm. Wes followed, leading the second horse and keeping watch on the empty alleys. Sam trudged beside them, dust caked to his face, his small hand clutching Eli's saddle strap for strength. When they passed the general store, folks began to step out, murmuring. Faces appeared in doorways, curious, wary. Mrs. Pruitt gasped when she recognized the woman. "Mercy," she whispered. "That's Lila Turner. Thought she was lost in the storm." Eli said nothing. He guided his horse straight to Nora's boarding house, its windows lit with a warm, steady glow. Nora herself, a broad-shouldered woman with hair the color of copper dust, opened the door before they reached it. "Bring her in," she said quickly. "I'll fetch clean water in the dock." Eli carried Lila inside, laying her on a cot near the stove. Sam followed close, eyes darting between his mother's still face and the strangers hovering near. Just then, heavy boots sounded on the porch. Sheriff Gentry filled the doorway, tall, barrel-chested, his star glinting in the lamplight. "Boon," he said, voice low but sharp. "Heard you were back in town." His eyes shifted to Lila, then to Sam. "You'd best come inside. There's word about Dalton's gang, and it ain't good." Eli's hand rested on his hat brim. "Then I reckon we'd better talk." The sheriff's office smelled of coffee, dust, and old leather. A single oil lamp burned on the desk, throwing light across maps pinned to the wall. Red circles marking the trails where Dalton's gang had struck. Eli stood across from Sheriff Gentry, hat in hand, eyes fixed on the map. "They came through here yesterday," the sheriff said, tapping the table. "Robbed a freight wagon near Red Butte. 2 riders, same as your trail. Took the driver's horse and left him near dead." Eli's jaw tightened. "Sounds like the same devils who tied that woman to a rock." Gentry sighed, scratching his beard. "You sure it's Dalton's lot? Could be drifters." "I've been tracking 'em since Painted Rock," Eli said. "They favor cruelty over corn. Never could stomach that kind of man." The sheriff leaned back in his chair, studying him. "You plan on going after them again?" Eli didn't answer right away. Through the open window came the faint sound of Sam's voice, talking softly to his mother at Nora's. He thought of the ropes, the bruises, the boy's courage. "I plan on finishing what they started," Eli said at last. The sheriff nodded slowly. "Then you'll have my deputy and 2 men at first light. We'll ride together." Eli placed his hat back on his head, eyes narrowing toward the dark street outside. "I'll be ready." The lamplight flickered as a wind pressed against the shutters, whispering of trouble still on the move. The night in Dry Gulch was still, save for the creak of a hanging sign and the hum of crickets. Eli was outside the livery, tightening his saddle straps under the thin light of a lantern. His horse shifted, sensing the coming ride. He meant to leave before dawn, quieter that way, simpler, too. But a small voice broke the silence. "You going, ain't you?" Eli turned. Sam stood near the water trough, boots untied, eyes wide and sleepless. He held something in his fist. The small horseshoe charm Eli had given him earlier. "You can't go alone," Sam said. "I saw where they went. I can help." Eli sighed, pulling the cinch tight. "You already helped plenty. Ain't your job to chase bad men." "But I saw smoke," Sam insisted, pointing toward the dark ridge beyond town. "Right past the creek bed. That's where they camped. I swear it." Eli paused. The boy's voice carried more truth than fear. He crouched down so they were eye level. "You sure, Sam?" Sam nodded. "They're the ones that hurt Mama. I remember the horses." For a long moment, Eli said nothing. Then he rose, hand resting on the saddle horn. "All right," he said quietly. "You done your part. I'll ride that way come morning, and I'll tell the sheriff where to find them." Sam smiled faintly, the moonlight glinting in his tears. "Promise?" Eli touched the boy's shoulder. "You have my word." As the first hint of dawn brushed the sky, Eli mounted his horse and turned toward the ridge. Let's find out if the boy's courage leads him true. The dawn came slow and red, spilling light across the desert like paint over old canvas. Eli rode out before the town woke, his horse's hooves soft on the dry earth. The air was cool for once, holding the faint smell of sage and smoke, just like Sam had said. Behind him, Wes followed with a rifle slung across his saddle. They didn't talk much. Words were wasted where silence told more. Ahead, the land dipped into a narrow wash. Charred wood, a dead fire, and boot prints marked the ground. "Boy was right," Wes murmured. "They camped here." Eli dismounted, crouching low. 2 horses, same tracks as before, they're running light. He brushed the sand aside, revealing a scrap of cloth, blue with a frayed edge. He recognized it. "From her dress," he said quietly. "They cut it to tie her." He stood, scanning the horizon. The sun was climbing fast now, gilding the far-off ridge. "They're headed north," he said, "toward the canyon, but they're on foot." "You think the sheriff's close enough?" Wes asked. Eli shook his head. "We ride ahead. Sheriff'll catch up." They mounted again, following the faint line of prints through the wash. Every hoofbeat carried dust and promise. Somewhere out there, justice was waiting. And Eli Boon meant to find it without blood, if he could. He glanced back once, toward the town that still slept under its haze of morning. "Your boy's got the heart of a lion," Wes said. Eli nodded. "That he does." He spurred the horse forward. By sunrise, the canyon lay still beneath a pale wash of gold. Eli and Wes found the outlaws' camp at the base of the ridge. 2 horses tethered. A fire burned to ash. The men were there too, sprawled in their bedrolls, unaware that the desert had turned against them. Eli didn't draw his gun. He just rode close, voice cutting through the quiet. "Morning, boys. You left something behind." Startled, they froze, hands halfway to their belts, but saw the sheriff's badge glinting on Wes's chest as he rode in behind Eli. One outlaw cursed, the other looked at the ground, shame flooding the space where bravado used to live. "We ain't looking for a fight," Eli said. "You'll walk to Dry Gulch and you'll answer for what you did." They didn't argue. By the time the sheriff caught up with the posse, the men were already bound and walking, their heads bowed under the rising sun. Later that morning, Dry Gulch came alive with news. Sam stood by Nora's porch, holding his mother's hand, as Eli led the horses down Main Street. The townsfolk cheered, but Eli just tipped his hat and kept walking. Lila Turner looked up at him, her voice soft. "How do we thank you?" Eli smiled faintly. "You already did, ma'am. You raised a brave boy." He handed Sam the small horseshoe charm once more. "Keep it close. Courage don't wear out if you use it right." Then he mounted his horse, the wind catching his coat as he turned toward the open road. The desert gleamed, endless and quiet. Weeks later, the desert healed its tracks, and Dry Gulch returned to its slow heartbeat. Sam and his mother built a small life under the wide blue sky, where kindness felt as steady as the sunrise. As for Eli Boon, some said he rode north. Others swore they saw him by the river trail, still chasing the kind of justice that doesn't wear a badge. But every evening, When the wind whispered through the canyon, Sam would look up and smile, because he knew the man who saved his mama was still out there, and the West was a little kinder for it.
Thank you for watching till the end. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. We'll be dropping brand new powerful stories every single day. See you on the next one.